There are two kinds of people in this world. Either you're doing things you know you shouldn't, or you're not doing things you know you should. Guess what? We're both. Hi, I'm Marcy Barker, life and business coach, aka your loving kick in the pants. This podcast is here to help you become accountable with aligned action and become boss-minded while growing a business without sacrificing what matters most. Let's dive in. Good morning, my beautiful people. I'm glad to be here today for another episode of Your Loving Kick in the Pants. And I want to talk about the fantastic event we had last week. It was called Reignite the Light for Christian Women Building Faith, Friendship, and Business. But the reason that I want to create this podcast today is about community, because even if you're like, hey Marcy, I didn't come to your event, I didn't even hear about it, I don't even know what it is, I want this podcast to be relevant and useful. And when I was thinking about the message I wanted to share about this event it's about community. And when I think about how this event came together and what made it successful, it's because of community. So today in this podcast, I'm going to share 3 different aspects that have made me successful with building a community. So if you are trying to do the same thing online or in person or in your own business or even just in your own life, having people to lean on, I think is very, very important. And ultimately, accountability is about being and doing your desired expectations. And when you're in a community, it becomes a little bit more challenging because accountability is a very personal thing and it's a very individual thing. But within a community, you're either going to get help from your community to be more accountable, or it's going to challenge you to be more accountable. And I've often talk to people about why I stay in business or why I do the things that I do, even though it can be very hard. And community is one of those things that have challenged me big time. And when you're like, Marcy, how does community challenge you? I run a Facebook group called Boss Minded, and that group was started in January of 2021. And it started out as a different name, and somebody invited me. They started this group, and 3 days later, I joined the group, and they said, I need help blowing this up. And I was like, mission accomplished. I know how to build community and create something. But from day one until now, there have been lots and lots of issues and challenges that I've learned while building a community. Like, for example, we had an event one time. Somebody came to the event with a clipboard and a piece of paper. They showed up late. They caused a little bit of a distraction. They passed around their clipboard, took everybody's information, and then they left. And then after the event, they started soliciting all of those people for their services. Another time, actually, the same person came to one of our retreats, and at the retreat, it was a business retreat. So everybody had the opportunity to share a little bit about their business, but we upsold placement so that people could kind of sponsor the retreat and share their actual services and sell their services at the event. This person did not do that. She did not pay for an extra spot. She actually said that she couldn't afford a full ticket, and we had donations that could allow her to come. So she came to this event, and then she started selling her products and services to everybody. And I had to tell her, like, hey, you actually can't do that here because we have people that paid money to be able to do that, to share their services. And she's like, well, I'm just trying to give back and I want to help everybody that I can. And even though she said that she didn't have money to afford the retreat, she was like, she was being very open about how much she was going to support everybody's businesses, even to the point that she had hundreds in her pocket. And we were like, this is just really odd. So as a leader of the community, I've had to deal with things that I never thought that I would have to deal with, because I would never do those sort of things. So when we encounter things that we would never personally do to other people, it can be very challenging to put yourself in the mindset of somebody who would behave that way and take advantage of this community that's been built for them. So anyway, that's a little bit of runaround, but those are the things that came to mind first when I talk about a community can be very challenging to build, but it is extremely rewarding. And there are 3 things that I want to share with you that are going to make or break the benefits of a community. Okay. So the very first one is activity. If you are trying to build any sort of online community, I'm sure you know what it feels like to be in a Facebook group where it's completely dead. You have been in a Facebook group where it's full of spam. It's full of just post after post, people sharing links, and there's no conversation going. There's no common goal to be had. It's just everybody's treating it like another billboard or a magazine or a list of ads. So in community, it's very important that you set the tone for what activity looks like. And in the Boss Minded community, I did this very early on because I wanted to keep the group different. I didn't want it to be just another spammy bulletin board where people just tried to sell you crap and never really cared about the quality of the community. So activity in my Facebook group, I created a rule that was you had to share 2 value posts for every pitch post. So you have to engage in conversation. You have to shout out another person's business. You have to ask questions that are business related and really support the community before you are going to go and pitch. So in your own community, I want you to think about what the activity looks like. If you're going to build a community, you've got to have something that people are going to benefit from. And that benefit has to be created by the community and not just you as a person, because I can tell you what it is. Before I was involved in this Facebook group, I had my own Facebook group that was tied directly to my health and fitness programs. And the programs were really great when people were in a challenge with me because they were actively working on their health. They were actively posting about nutrition. They were actively posting about their wins. And as soon as the challenge was over, they had no reason to participate anymore. And I learned that I was the person who made them participate because I would make a post and people would respond, but they weren't going out of their way to make a post regularly. So activity in a community, you've got to recognize what's the benefit of the group and what's the activities that's going to create the benefit. Because again, a community is a group of people coming together to support one another. That's a lot different than one person being the leader and everybody listening to the leader and doing what the leader says and being reactive to that. That is not what I wanted. So in a community, consider what the benefit is and how the group is going to create the benefit. Okay. The second part of creating a successful community is having common goals. Now, when I, again, first joined this Facebook group that this person asked me to help with, their goal was much different than mine. And this was not clear until much further down the road when activity came into place and the events that we were putting together came into place. Like, for example, my common goal, we both decided, okay, we want to have a retreat. This will be a lot of fun. I had never put on a retreat at that time in my life, so I wasn't exactly sure how to do it. But I knew that it was going to cost money. Everybody was going to have to pay their share of what the house costed and how much food would cost and any other gifts or enjoyment that we wanted to do. Somebody was going to have to pay for it. Now, the very first time that we did this, it got confusing because one person was responsible for booking the home, okay? So this person, she booked the home. It was for 2 nights, and we told everybody, we're gonna have this retreat for 2 nights. And then what happened was a lot of people were like, well, I can't do 2 nights. It's too far away from my family, or I can't spend that much time, or I have to get a sitter, and blah, 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 blah. So we did a 1-night retreat. And what happened by doing a 1-night retreat, we had a fantastic event. People connected. It was very productive, but there were a couple of problems with our very first experience. Hey, my beautiful people. If you're loving these episodes, you'll want the full experience. I've bundled both of my books, The Accountability Code and Becoming Boss Minded, into one powerful package. You'll get instant access to the audiobooks and ebooks so you can learn and grow anytime, anywhere. Head to bossminded.com and grab the book bundle now. It's the perfect way to stay inspired between episodes. All right, let's dive back in. One being, way too much food was purchased because one person wanted to use a caterer. That caterer required a minimum order, and it would have been great if our retreat was for 2 days and not just 1 day. So there was a lot of surplus of food. Now, on top of that, because we could only do a retreat for 1 night instead of the 2 nights that had to be booked, somebody was stuck with all of the extra cost. So when we're planning a retreat, I realized my goal was not to pay extra money for people to come and hang out. Like, not at all. If I was going to book a house with an extra night and have a ton of extra food, I would hope that that is a family vacation and not something that I footed the bill for other people to partake in and then be like, sorry, I can't help out, or I can't stay, or whatever. So common goal can start out with a very innocent, a very fun and exciting thing. But in order for a community to continue, you have to work those kinks out. So again, if we lost a lot of money on this retreat, and it's not even a lot, and honestly, it wasn't it wasn't me who lost the money because I refused to do those things. But I didn't want to be active in a community where that was going to happen to the organizers. So what we did with the common goal is said, okay, we want to have another retreat, but let's not lose money. Let's plan it a little bit better this time. And that required some organization with funds, like setting up a business and charging credit cards and putting a no refund clause on the sign up page, and things that take a little bit of courage to do if you've never done them before. You know, you tell somebody, sorry, you can't get your money back. It's already been spent. Now, the person that I was working with, they didn't want to do this. They didn't want to have those hard conversations of saying people can't have their money back. They were more willing to sacrifice themselves and the other organizers in order for one person to be happy. Now, the reason why we ultimately don't work together anymore is because those common goals were very evident. So in your own community, if you're working with people or even the people in your community, you've got to recognize what is the common goal here and how can we organize the whole thing so that this common goal stays the forefront. Now, through figuring that out, we realized that one of the people just needed friends. They needed friends. They needed girls' night. They needed time away from their own family because they were kind of going crazy. The time in my life, I wanted a lot of business growth. I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to do new things, and I wanted to find a way to find more clients for what I was doing. And those common goals worked together for a little bit, but then the gap became way too big between the things that were going wrong and the things that we wanted to do. So ultimately, the only way for the community to stay was for us to split. Now, common goals are very, very important when it comes to accountability, because remember, accountability is your ability to fulfill desired expectations. And if you and somebody else in your community have different desired expectations, the community is going to be split. Now, I'm not saying that every single person has to have a fallout and you don't talk to each other ever again, or the whole purpose of the community has to shift to favor one person. But I do want you, I guess I want to caution you that when you are starting a community, you've got to figure out these things, the activity. What is the benefit of the community that the community actually provides to each other? And the second one is common goals. Make sure that's extremely clear from the get-go so that there is less chance of falling away from what you want in the beginning. Now, the third tip or strategy I want to share with you when it comes to creating a community is to remove what is not working. Now, we talked about this a little bit, like not repeating mistakes or things that are hurting you as a community organizer, but you have to be willing to recognize when other people or external factors are making this harder for you, because Gary Vee said it really well. He said that if you have got a great sales team and your highest performer is an idiot, as in they're making it miserable for everybody else to perform well, the best thing you can do is to get rid of your highest performer, because they're gonna poison and insert toxicity into the rest of your team. I can tell you that this is very, very true. And I had multiple opportunities to test this out, and I was not successful every single time. But I can tell you that the times where I did remove situations or people that were hurting the community, it is always better afterwards. I'm not saying that it's easy at all, because it is really hard to have conversations with people when you're actually causing harm to this community when they think they're a really good asset to the community. So I guess I know I'm being a little bit vague here because I don't want to go into a lot of different stories of what went wrong as the community is continuing to succeed. But I do want to share with you guys, I guess that's exactly why I wrote Boss Minded. There are things in this book that I talk about that maybe are the hard or the ugly parts of building a business, the challenging parts that actually make you successful. So if you don't have Becoming Boss Minded yet, I would say just get that. But when it comes to building a community, you have to recognize that everybody has their own reason for taking action, for being in a community. And when you are able to stop the problems or stop the leaks, then your community is going to be a lot more effective. So I hope that in this podcast, I've given you a little bit of kick in the pants that if you're building a community, revisit these things. If there is activity that needs to be increased so that the benefit of the community is created by the community itself, or if you need to revisit the common goals and ask, is everybody involved still on board with what our main goal is? And lastly, are there things in your community that need to be removed? What are some things that are maybe holding your community back? And it could be a situation, it could be a program that you're selling, it could be a person that maybe is not having the best intentions in the space anymore. Because these things will make or break the place where you get to hang out and you invest in. And if you are a community leader or you're building something, you have every right to make sure that it stays within your benefit. Because being a community leader takes a lot of courage. And again, it comes with a lot of challenges. And you deserve to benefit from all of your hard work. Thanks for tuning in, friend. If this episode gave you value, don't just keep it to yourself. Share it with someone in your circle who's ready to wake up, show up, and grow their business without sacrificing what matters most. When you do, you're not just helping them, you're building your network of like-minded leaders. And I'll say this plainly, leaving a kind review matters more than you know. It helps more people find the show and it keeps the momentum going. So pause for a moment and please drop that review. Lastly, if there's a topic you want me to cover, I want to hear from you. Reach out because this podcast is for you and I'm here to serve. Until next time, stay boss-minded.